Hello everyone, Scott Seaton here, Music Director of your North State Symphony, and I'm here today on a special edition of Musician Accents with our wonderful General Manager Elizabeth Quivey. And this is a very special edition because you recently announced that you are stepping down from the North State Symphony. So I thought a perfect time to get your story before we aren't able to tell it. And But like I do with all of my musician accent interviews, we're going to start in the beginning, so to speak, and then get to the present day. But first of all, just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into music.
If the question is about how I got into music, that is going pretty far back. Pretty far back to childhood. My dad is a violinist. Right. He plays violin and viola in the North State Symphony and other ensembles. And so he was always playing violin when I was growing up, and I'd hear him practice and listen to records, and he also played violin in Mexican mariachi bands. So I grew up listening to classical music and mariachi music, right, as well as other sort of multicultural music from that region as well. So those were sort of side by side. And then when we moved to Chico when I was probably 5, I do distinctly remember going to what was then the Chico Symphony rehearsals and sitting in the back row in Harlan Adams Theater very quietly and listening to the Chico Symphony, which I think then around that time was probably conducted by David Colson.
A little while back.
So yeah, that's going a few ways back, more than 20 years, that's for sure. So I remember being around music as a kid pretty much all my life, but my folks never really pressured us to do it as, you know, something that we should just do. Like just because my dad played violin didn't mean that I needed to take violin lessons unless I was interested.
Right.
So yeah, so I wasn't forced into it, but I was around it in a very natural sort of way.
Absolutely. And since music is in your family, and I know that you play several interesting instruments, let's find out how you got into probably the most interesting of your instrument repertoire is the bagpipes. So
yes.
Tell us, how on earth do you go from getting a mariachi background to playing bagpipes? Let's
see. I'll keep it short-ish. Probably when I was around 11 or 12, my dad had a string ensemble for students in the area. There was no string orchestra. And around that time I thought, you know, it's time. I want to play something. I don't want to play violin because everybody plays violin. I'll either play cello or viola. And I ended up with cello. So I played cello in this ensemble for quite a long time. It was great. And I took cello lessons, and then I started getting kind of bored of cello, and my brother had started playing bagpipes around a certain time. And he was interested in bagpipes because of history and military history and our family's Scottish heritage. And I looked at the bagpipes and I thought, that's interesting. I bet I can play those. And so I just took lessons from his teacher and I learned.
Pretty simple.
Oh yeah, I mean, fundamentally it's simple. It's quirky. It has its own notation system in a way. Physically, it is a demanding instrument.
Absolutely, but you've obviously gotten far enough that, for example, you played with the Eureka Symphony.
I did. I am a rare bagpiper who can play bagpipes and read music and count rests and watch a conductor. So I did get a chance to play Peter Maxwell Davies' Orkney Wedding with the Eureka Symphony a couple of years ago. And I was gonna play it with another symphony more recently, but the concert was canceled due to the pandemic. So, but it's in my repertoire.
Well, maybe it'll come back around.
I think so.
So in addition to the really interesting bagpipes, you also are a cellist. How did
I mean, cellist.
Maybe we'll use but you play it really. You play with the Paradise Symphony at least, and you've done several things with North State Symphony outreach projects. So
yeah,
how did you pick up the cello?
You know, it was just something that I wanted to do because of my dad's student program, and a family friend was moving to Mexico for missions work and said, could you take my cello? And so I just started playing it because of that.
Nice. And which one would you say you play more of?
Oh, definitely bagpipes.
Definitely bagpipes.
Yes, I regrettably have not touched my cello in over 2 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, because reasons.
Right,
yeah.
right. And you even had a bagpipes gig today. So
I
how
did
often
this morning.
how often do you play with?
Every month or two, and it's usually a funeral.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So now, one of the interesting things about you is that you didn't go into a performance career or anything like that. You actually got your degree in graphic design. So
yes.
how did that come about?
Well, I think a lot of folks, or at least more than we think, a lot of folks who end up in arts management on this smaller sort of mid-size organizational level don't necessarily have a professional arts administration background. And some of it, and this is a tangent of course, some of that is because there aren't that many arts administration schooling and education programs out there. So I couldn't go to Chico State and get a degree in music business management because it's not really a thing. So a lot of us just stumble in it because we have a background in music or an interest or just something personal. So I got a degree in graphic design, communication design through CSU Chico. And because my dad played in the symphony, I would run into the symphony manager around town or at one of my odd jobs, and he said to me one day, "Hey, do you know anything about bookkeeping?" And I said, "Yes," and which was partly true because I'd taken a QuickBooks class in maybe, 2004, which was kind of a while ago at that time. But I said yes because he clearly was interested in having somebody work in the office and help out with paperwork. So after I graduated, I started working for the symphony.
And this was around what year?
This would have been 2010.
So 2010, and then, okay. Before we get too much into your work with the symphony, going back to sort of your early, formative experiences, are there, you grew up with music, your dad musician, mariachi, but is there any sort of one instance where you felt like, oh, I want to sort of keep music in my life as well, or is it just kind of a natural progression for you?
I think it's just natural. I think I've dabbled so much in different forms of music, whether it's church choir or here's a guitar, I'll learn some chords, or here's a piano, I guess I should sight read some stuff and learn how to play along with whatever. I think I just always do it without really thinking about it.
That works.
Yeah, it works.
So 2010 forward is obviously a huge period of your life. So you've been with the symphony for a while in various capacities, and I first met you in 2015, and I instantly noticed that you were on top of your game. You weren't the general manager at that point, but you knew the inner workings of the symphony backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
So and that was very apparent. And so you've obviously been an incredible asset to this organization. Tell us about that progression. How did you go from just being asked if you knew anything about bookkeeping to going into that position to developing an interest in doing more at higher levels within the orchestra?
I think I was probably interested in most things, which makes these smaller to mid-sized organizations attractive for a lot of folks, because especially early career music administrators, I would say, because you get to do something different all the time, and because there's always a different need all the time, day in and day out, and naturally because of that you're going to get to know the inner workings of an organization very well and very quickly. So I guess my trajectory was I started out filling out check requests and doing some designing ads for fundraisers and maybe serving on a fundraiser event committee and setting up signs or something. So started there. And then, one of the office assistants steps down and I take on more office work, it slips into personnel manager maybe, and I start paying more musicians and doing some of the hiring for that, and then someone steps down and I step into production manager and start working on stage setups and stage managing shows, and it just sort of accumulates little by little every couple of years whenever there is a need, and I am very good at filling needs. when I see that there's a need to be filled. So I just step into it.
Simple enough.
It seems simple.
And so, yeah, we had a huge search for our next executive director back in 2016. Yeah.
Yes.
When Keith Harrott stepped down to pursue more relaxing things in life. And we had, lots and lots of candidates from all over the country, and you shined above and beyond. And the past 6 years have done, well, we've been through a lot together.
Oh my goodness.
So where to even unpack all of this? I mean, you came into a leadership role at a time where there was about to be lots of huge shifts, where we learned as a team to adapt, and then to adapt again, and then adapt again. I dare I say we have more challenges being in North Central California than most regional orchestras have. I mean, it's just geographically speaking, we deal with a lot of stuff over here. And then, of course, there's a global pandemic and everything.
Sure.
So, so we have done a lot to keep the ship afloat, and we've done some amazing things that a lot of orchestras have not even attempted to do. I mean, take the world shutting down 2 years ago. We shifted, more times than I can count. But every plan that we had viable outcomes and things we could do. And then when we finally had a clear vision of what we could and could not do, we were ready to go, because
we'd gone through all the scenarios.
We brainstormed, we put scenarios A through Z into place, and then we went with it, and we produced, some great virtual content, both at the end of our 20th season and sorry, it was the end of our 19th season and the beginning and entirety of our 20th season,
was virtual,
which was virtual, and we created some incredible projects.
Yes.
And some incredible things that will never leave, even in a post-pandemic world, if such a thing will ever exist. And so looking at all this and looking at where we are now, what are you most proud of when it comes to your work with the North State Symphony?
Weirdly, I am very proud of the virtual season. I think not only was the content strong, the content was strong, it was consistent, it was well crafted, mostly thanks to you. But it felt like it was one of the most collaborative seasons that we had done from the core staff. I mean, we were Zooming all the time and having meetings all the time and sending things back and forth all the time. We felt very, very connected. Yeah. So, and it was a good season, actually, from the standpoint of our work and the standpoint of the output of the artistic product, and it was also in the middle of a bunch of more wildfires going on as well. So we were just getting hit from many sides. Right. And we made it.
Yeah, and a lot of things that we did in our completely virtual season also helped us more align with our reimagined mission and values of the organization. I mean, more specifically, we're very focused on youth education and getting ourselves out and making an impact on the future generations of musicians and music lovers out there. And our youth concert specifically, which I'm sure you're also speaking of, was a really fun thing to do, and it gave us endless possibility and potential to get into places within the North State that we haven't been able to get into in a live season. So, and now we're at a point where we've come back to live concerts and live youth concerts, but we've also created this both virtual project and hybrid project where we can get into classrooms on their own time, but also where we have something and then I can, join a remote classroom or location, either in person or via Zoom, and reach all the more people that way. So that's really exciting. And also with that season, it was really I mean, and this is testament to both our staff and the organization that we have, is that so many musicians were willing to jump into this head on. And just the amount of creativity and the amount of enthusiasm went a long way. But, and having said that, you know, that's one of the first things, again, that I noticed when I first came to Northern California in February 2015, is that we have something special.
Yes.
You know, as soon as I walked in to meet the orchestra for the first time, the amount of energy, the give and take, and the smiling faces and the friendly personalities goes, you know, way beyond what I had experienced with many orchestras up to that point. So, you know, for me, having been here, you know, 7 years, which is incredible, and you know, that's
a chunk of time.
It's the longest I've ever been with any orchestra, and you know, no plans to depart anytime soon, just because of the unique chemistry we have here. And you know, challenges aside, you know, it's been so great working with you and all of our various staff that have cycled through in the past, you know, however many years. So yeah, it's and along that, I was going to ask you, what is our, you know, what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen that we've faced? But you know, we've faced nearly every challenge you can possibly think of. I mean, everything has just been thrown at us. So maybe
Oroville Dam, catastrophic wildfires, multiple years of those. Global pandemic, yeah, it's a few.
So that aside,
Yeah,
because
that
you know,
aside.
we don't even need to go there because
No.
it's too much to talk about. But I will say that where we are right now, we're sitting in one of the epicenters of North State Symphony life, especially after concerts. This is your pub. This is Quivey's. This is a pub that you have in your house.
Yes.
And it's just been incredible, you know, being able to be a part of this, because over the past, you know, 7 years for me, we've had many post-concert gatherings here where you hear stories of, oh man, that Mahler, God, that conductor, I wish he. But you know, just the interaction that happens here, and it's representative of your leadership as a whole. How inclusive you've been, how you have tried to branch out in different areas of the community and bring more people in to our symphony circle, and that's been so wonderful to be a part of. So, aside from all of your musical activities and your work with the symphony and the many, many, many hats that you have worn, what do you like to do that isn't all of that?
Oh, I've got a little backyard garden. So I've been growing mostly garden greens like collards and kale and chard and stuff. It's pretty easy for me to do, and it's kind of fun. So there's that. I sing in two church choirs here in town, which is musical, but it's also fun for me and a nice way to connect with a community and serve a community. That's a lot of fun. In the not so distant past, my family and I and groups of friends did a lot of historical reenacting. So I don't do very much of it these days, especially with the pandemic, but I have, you know, made some uniforms and clothes from 200 years ago. I do a little bit of sewing, and I've been able to travel because of that. I did the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. That was a lot of fun on a farm in Pennsylvania somewhere.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Sleeping on the ground with different kinds of bugs than they have out here in California.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun and interesting ways to meet new people and good excuse to travel.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And what I do know about you is that you don't run.
Oh no, I don't run. No.
Whereas I need running to balance me. We've had a conversation about running before, and apparently when Elizabeth has tried to run, it makes her angry. So
it stresses me out. I would so much rather walk.
But fortunately, we you know, we reside in you know, this beautiful area of the North State where there's so much to just go out and explore. I mean, Bidwell Park is an endless resource of places and paths. And
I just went to Black Butte Lake in Oroville.
Oh, really?
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, no shortage of hikes there and walks and things.
And running trails.
There you go. Yeah, I remember one time we went out to Oroville for a symphony meeting and went to Table Mountain.
We did.
And saw some cows and stuff.
Cows, flowers, maybe a creek. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was fun.
you know.
Yeah. Go to a meeting, go outside. Yeah.
No, we're definitely blessed to have so many different pockets of things to do. You know, even the symphony retreat that we've had many years up in Mount Shasta.
Yeah,
is just
that's nice.
An amazing outlet for all of us. So yeah, you're definitely a person of many varied interests, and all of those have somehow come together with your position, and it's definitely not an easy thing for us looking forward. Like, how are we going to find an Elizabeth Quivey?
Well, you won't find an exact
No,
Elizabeth
we will
Quivey.
never find an Elizabeth Quivey, but you've certainly set the bar really high for whoever comes into this very unique organization, and all of the structures that somehow come together that are very different than most regional orchestras out there. So Elizabeth, thank you, first of all, because it's been a pleasure, an honor working with you, with someone who's so dedicated to all that we're trying to accomplish, and these past few years have been great.
Thank you.
And you know, you're going to be around, so it's not like we're saying.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But for everyone out there, you know, Elizabeth is such a great individual, and if you ever have a chance to sit in Squivey's and have a beer with her, find her and do so, because she has many stories to tell. And I just want to thank you all for listening, and we will see you at our season finale, at Elizabeth's season finale, on May 13 and 14.
13 in Reading and 14 in Chico.
Where we will do Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, where hopefully everything will come together. Again, it's one of those projects where there's so many variables, so many things that have to happen, especially considering all that we have to think about and all the red tape we have to sort of continually navigate in this world.
I think we're going to do okay.
Yeah, we're going to do okay. But thank you all so much. We will see you at our final concert and also at our next edition of Musician Accents. Bye-bye.